So we are gathered here to talk a little bit about this Move, Connect, Learn, which is new and more than 20 years old as well. So what brought us to this point was looking back. I think from the very beginning, at least from 2023, 2003, we have been on this Move, Connect, Learn journey. So it is something I didn't realize at that time. When we started relationship development intervention, that was sort of the connect part of it. It was really focused on how to rebuild that connection. Hello. And the other part, which was the move, that was just more accidental. So we lived in a community where we could really have large walks, and we were used to going on 2-mile walks twice a day. And we were also involved with Enki education, which was based on Waldorf. So we had a lot of movement in. So I think we didn't quite realize we were doing Move, Connect, Learn, but I think that's been our journey for a very long time. So what I wanted to do today was to talk about this project a little bit, because Life Smart is kind of broad. So if you go to the website, we have the 4 main points here, which is the learning, daily interests, family interactions, and engagement with community, which are our 4 guiding principles. But within that, the question is always, where do we start and what do we do? So when you go to all these different groups, and I've said this many times, I think it's almost been a blessing that we didn't have so many different groups and so much information. We had plenty of information back in our day, but now it's much, much worse. So the question that parents face is, where do we start and what do we do? So to me, I think this is really, at least for us, that's been the mantra: move, connect, learn. And it's taken different forms over the last 20 plus years, but that's basically where we start. Now, I think where we are headed in the future is that will be the starting point. So I think this website's falling into place, because whether we come to DSRP, whether we come to concept learning, whether we come to other things, I think this is going to be our starting point. I really see this as very, very important. So I'm happy where this has arrived. And we've been very blessed to have Ujjwal in on this journey, because we are more the parent side. We have the neurodivergent individual, but I'm no expert on movement, especially the kind of movement we want to focus on. So there are 3 things I want to focus on today. One is the basic idea of Move, Connect, Learn. I think it's something that maybe it's worthwhile for everyone to focus on. Exactly how it works might be different. Every child has different challenges, needs, and so on. But I feel Move, Connect, Learn is a very, very a general template that can be useful for all children and even adults. So we have not seen any lessening of the need for Move, Connect, Learn over the years. So that is one point. The second point I want to mention is about where our resources are going. I don't think Anila is able to join today. She was not sure she could, so she's probably not here. But she keeps bringing me back to the 5 Ps that I talk about in Life Smart Parenting, which is the possibilities, priorities, then the path, practice, and then finally progress. And the importance of those 5 Ps is that whatever resources we share, that's the journey. Everyone's going to see different possibilities. They have their own priorities. They're going to, find their own path forward and so on. So we're really not expecting that if you take a look at our ebook or any of the shares that we do, everyone's going to just implement the animal song or whatever song and just do it in a particular sequence. So everything is, shared with the primary intention of helping people see possibilities. And from there, they're going to find their path forward over time. So that's something that I wanted to mention. And then I changed the website a little bit so that the board with the, all the daily shares comes in the beginning. And so you can quickly see all these shares, and then we have some of the details later on. So if you look here, every one of these shares, think of it as something that gets you thinking about a possibility. So if you look at the very first one, this was an interesting one, and it sort of happened accidentally in a way, because Anant has been blogging, he's been writing this Natya imprints for a few, months now. And when we talked to Dr. Ambika Kameshwar, who created the Theatre Arts for Holistic Development, I've realized over time that there are sort of two sides to it. One is what we call the life is theater, theater is life. That is, everything we do in life can be thought of as theater. And the second part is the methodology, which is where we go to more, that you have the 5 tools and you have all these outcomes and so on. So mostly I think we think in terms of those, TAHD as a method, but TAHD as in theater is just life and life is just theater is a very important perspective as well. And those of you, and I think Shinjita, Monica might recognize a little bit of this perspective, because even though Dr. Gutstein doesn't talk about it in theater terms, we have heard a lot about roles and what role does each person play. And, when you're designing experiences, assign a clear role to the child and so on. So there is a little bit of this thinking in RDI. But when you think about it, I think it's a good way to start thinking about movement. So if you read Anand's article, he shared 2 examples. One is the, going to, give clothes for ironing and going to the neighborhood store. So it seems very simple, but when you take any of those scenarios apart, there is a lot of movement involved, right? So if you think about just going shopping, just getting out of the house, going down the stairs, going across to the shop. Again, there's a lot of movement involved in the shop as you do the shopping. So we don't think about the movement aspect of it, but I think a lot of our life experiences have movement. So Simi, I always think about that when you share, and that Karthik and I, you share those travel things. And that's a lot of coordinated movement, right? You go to a place and you go from one place to another and get involved in different things. So I think
I'm going to Kerala on 31st, so I will have a lot more to share, because Kerala, every day it's like a picture postcard. So it'll be more regular.
Yes. And if you, for us, the seed for travel and coordinated movements, wherever you're going, was planted in our RDI days, because since we used to walk a lot anyway, we used to play all these RDI games, like variations. So as we are walking, we'll introduce small variations, like I'll suddenly stop, or I'll start walking backwards, or any of those variations. So we used to do a lot of the RDI games with movement. So maybe that was the beginning of the Move, Connect, Learn, because we used to do, well, we were anyway walking, and then RDI gave us some ideas on how to do guided participation. And then we basically put it together with the movement. So I think that probably is where a lot of the Move, Connect, Learn began. And then we started doing Enki education, and we had a whole movement book. There were a lot of verses, even for teaching math. So we would go around the neighborhood and, be chanting those verses or talking about the lessons. So our first lesson of the day was basically on the walk. So, I think we have lived Move, Connect, Learn for a long time. And when people talk about sitting tolerance, it always sort of, I say, okay, who's that sitting tolerance needed? Have to sit when you're not ready to sit and don't want to sit. So, I do want people to think in terms of Move, Connect, Learn as a possibility. And what we've seen is the more Anant is engaged in this movement part, he actually does better with the sitting part too. So when he was preparing for his Arangetram and he was having intense movement every day, he was also able to sit and take 3-hour exams with no extra time, no anything. He could just sit and do it. So I think those actually, I think, go hand in hand that we don't think about. Anyway, coming back to the point of this, uh, is also that every share that we have, I want people to think in terms of the possibilities that you see. So I basically created a little worksheet so that you can mark down the, for each share that we have, you can jot down the possibilities that you think of. So you may not use everything, but each share is intended to get you thinking about some possibilities, and then over time you may use more and more of those. So for example, I'm not going through all the things, but so the life is theater one, that can get you thinking in terms of everyday experiences, roles, movement patterns, and how does that help. Now the animal song now gets a little bit more into the methodology part of the TAHD, right? Because TAHD has 5 main tools, which is your movement and dance, and then music and rhythm, storytelling, drama, and arts and crafts. So this animal song is one of the simple activities, which is really a movement activity, also has music in it. And then Ujjwal has also done stories in Balakendra, where he'll tie in, he'll start with this animal song and the hap hap happily that all the children seem to like, and then build the story from there. So here, we're getting a little bit into the method part, but again, start thinking about possibilities here. The third thing, which is also important, I was, again, one of those timely conversations. I was having a conversation with Dr. Vaishnavi Purna from Ramana Sunurtya Rasa. And she mentioned that they use the word experiential movement. And for, many years now, I've been trying to explain why I think the kind of movement Anand gets with Bharatanatyam and now with TAHD is different from, say, things like swimming or, karate or skating or all of those things. Now, all of those movements are good and, definitely worth including, but there is something a little bit different in theater. So the question is, what exactly is it that's different and how does it help? And they have this idea of experiential movement, which is, I think, a useful term. But in ordinary movements, it's not just the physical movement, right? All our communication, we have all the emotional expression. A lot of things are involved, are integrated with movement. So I always find it interesting, like when we had the THD class, Ujjwal actually talked about movement and emotions in the same class. And I found that quite interesting that those two are paired so closely in Natya. And compared to where we started, a lot of people are now aware of movement, but I still don't see that tight a link between movement and expression. So I think this is one of at least my core goals, because yes, I think compared to 20 years back when nobody actually told us we should be, really pursuing movement, I think people are more aware now, and that's good. But the question I want to raise is what kind of movement? So maybe bring up the idea of a movement diet throughout the day, right? So we have different kind of movement experiences. Now, as far as Anant is concerned, I find dance and drama kind of activities do both. So dance can be vigorous. You've got physical, you can have physical movement, but you also work on expressions, right? And the different gestures and body positions and body awareness. So many things you work on through dance. So to me, we have only X number of hours in a day. So for me, if you have dance and theater, it actually integrates a lot of the movement that he needs, but also integrates the expression practice that he also needs. So this might be a good place for you to comment, Ujjwal, about the integration between movement and emotional expression, because I think that's something that you do all the time.
Yes, yes. So when you recalled it, even I remembered. And Ramaji speaks about this beautiful shloka that we have in Abhinaya Darpana. It's a text on dance, which says in dance, in classical dance, what we do, we have yato hasta tato drishti. So wherever the hand moves, our eyes also should move. That's one of the basic rules. What happens when the eyes move towards the hand? Yato drishti tato manaha. When the eye moves towards the hand, the mind also moves towards the wherever we are focusing. And yato mana tato bhavaha. Wherever the mind moves, you have the right expressions or right emotions being emoted. And where there is right emotion being expressed, yato bhava tato rasaha. Rasaha is the aesthetic experience, and that is the goal of dance. So to experience that inner essence that we have is the basic purpose of dance, and that happens systematically. That wherever the hand moves, the eyes also moves, and where the eyes moves, the mind moves and gives the right expressions, and which brings about the aesthetic experience. And I think the term which Vaishnavi Purna from Rasa, they have come up with called as the experiential dance. I think comes from this experience, saying that it's a rasanubhava. The anubhava is translated as experience, and the dance which is filled with this experience is called experiential dance, I guess. And I feel this kind of dance, this movement we can call it, brings about holistic development. Not only it's a physical activity, but it is also an activity which involves our mind, and which brings out the right expression from the heart, and that brings about the holistic communication and also the holistic development of every one of us. Yes, Ramaji, is that
Yes, thank you. So I
enough
think,
explanation? Yes, thank
Simi,
you.
I don't know whether you have any thoughts on this, because I feel, whatever I have seen, the movement, emotion connection, I think I've not, at least I have not seen it, but I'm not a special educator, and my knowledge is not that vast. But I feel like that's, people talk about movement. People also talk about emotional regulation. And I was reading this interesting resource on interoception, and they were talking about how emotion is really about bodily states and movement and feeling and all of these things. You can't learn
True.
emotion by showing flashcards, right? It's
Definitely not.
not the
Definitely
way.
not. Uh,
I
I
don't think we
mean,
can really learn emotions that way. So I feel like Indian Natya has it, for thousands of years, how they've paired movement and emotional expression and learning emotion. So I don't know, Simi, if you had any thoughts on that.
no, I could relate what Ujjwal sir was saying, because as I said, as a kid, I used to learn dance with my sister. My dance sister continued. I left because I was not that dance person. But still, yes, whatever he says, I mean, where your hand is, that's where your eyes should be, or where your eyes is, that's where your mind would go. This is something which we say even in the special education part also, and today itself, as if I noticed how music or how movement also, because I have a child who's a big movement seeker, and I cannot keep on telling him, sit down, sit down, sit down. So what I did was, to calm him down, was I used music as the therapy mode, I mean, which you people are using the animal song and all. It is so natural. And the same thing, movement based, to catch attention also. There's another activity which we use, which uses both music and dance together, where we just take some utensils and a plate or something, and then there will be those spoons which will bang. They just have to follow me, I'm not even saying follow me. Whatever they hear, they just have to replicate. Yes, they are small children, at times they take time, but I've seen the amount of happiness which comes vis-a-vis the activities I do on tabletop. And I mean, being a special educator, because I have to keep the curriculum also in mind. But the difference, but is very clear, when my uh, therapy involves music, when my therapy involves movement, the attention is so natural compared to what I do on a tabletop, worksheet, or a flashcard kind of thing.
Actually, the example you were giving me was reminding me of how the life as theater type of perspective and the TAHDS method perspective can come together, because
True.
Anant and his dad used to play this. Well, supposedly they were helping me by putting dishes away, so they would have bang on the dishes and have some rhythm game going on, go all over the house. Finally, I put it away, but at least they had some fun making a game of it. So we used to do the same thing with Twister. We used to play this Twister game, and we just used to have, because our veranda was big and we had all these things lying around. We never used to follow the rules, but because of RDI, we were always doing this, do things together. So we will just take the something to drum on, walk, coordinated movement, go towards a twister together, put our foot somewhere, put our hand somewhere. Actually, that's one of the suggestions I've given along with the body part song, is the twister game. Once, I think this is where the possibility thing comes in, because what I feel is, if you have a structured resource and you start exploring, I think ideas will come. So Anila has been trying some interesting things with her son, because she realized that the example she gives us, after joining Ujjwal's class on this Balakendra, somehow they're using their fingers more for counting, and she's finding, so that's what she's saying, they were very good with language, but that language and body connect, that's missing. True. If that's missing, your comprehension is not very good. So she's seeing some difference in already in terms of what they're doing. So I think that is the point I'd like to make, that it's not like a, here are 10 activities and you do 10 activities, and each share that we have, what I'm hoping is people will take some time and really think about the possibilities that they can think of based on that. So if we have given a couple of scenarios on the Life is Theater, maybe somebody can think of some scenarios for movement in daily chores. If we have given the animal song, well, there are other animal songs, you can think of many other possibilities. So the magic word, if you will, for the first 30 days is possibilities. Just keep thinking of different possibilities. But I also think that where those activities and all become important is you can't just keep thinking those possibilities in the head. So I think even if you just do, even if it's the animal song, you just do it, or the body part song, or any of those stories, I think you get some idea about where the child is and how they're functioning by just doing the activities. So I think the activities are also important, but I think looking at what's in the 30-day guide and coming up with possibilities is also important. That's where I think you're going to get a lot of ideas to work from. So that was one thought. I also wanted to show a little bit the video guide, because one of the focus that we have for this workbook, because the same animal song can be thought of as a way to teach about a concept, animals, right? But we can also think about it as something for improving parent-child interactions. So if you just do the animal song together and do it at whatever level the child is, that's just a way to enjoy moving together. So when we think of something like Bharatanatyam, we think in terms of, very, lot of training, lot of practice, lot of correction. Every minute you're being told this is not right, that is not right, and so on. And, versus a connection focus. So teaching dance with a connection focus versus and it's not really either or, because eventually if you're learning dance, you also want to be able to perform at least reasonably well. So there is a balance there. And Simi, here we come back to the, our favorite, imitation, because I think what I find helps, at least that's what I've, having seen Ujjwal's class for more than a year, I think it's the imitation that helps him really cut back on performance demands and corrections, right? So it's more like, okay, I'm doing, follow me. Of course, you have to be very patient, right? Yeah. He has to keep repeating it about, I don't know how many times before it finally clicks. But Shinjita noticed this too. She said, when I watch Ujjwal's videos, I notice that he doesn't keep correcting. And especially with the neurodivergent, and especially with those who tend to react very negatively to performance demands, I think that could be a very good variable. So I've not thought about all this, but having watched TAHD classes for more than a year, I've started seeing imitation in a different light altogether, how you can actually use imitation to change your interaction style in a class. and make it less, do this, do this. You can really reduce verbal prompts. So that is something. But of course, the other
success
side of that
was
is the child
Dr.
has to be able to imitate to
group
be
dance
able
he
to
did.
implement that.
Yeah. That's what I said, that Ujjwal's work, your work, reached its pinnacle when he did that group dance. I mean, I was so impressed, keeping in pace with all the others. He recently had a performance and you posted. So that showed, how naturally he has flourished. I mean,
That was a real test, because this was a very small space, and
true.
this is the first time I've seen that kind of an event. So I saw that space and said, this is not going to be easy for Anant, because he likes a lot of space to move around. But he handled that space okay. So that was a big learning from the last performance that he did. So every time there's a little bit of a challenge when you perform there. So Ujjwal, any thoughts, comments on any of these topics?
No, I think it's good. I mean, even I'm learning through this experience that imitation, although it takes a lot of time, but I think that they're imbibing it unknowingly. And then Ramaji says that he's imbibing it, and they have a different kind of a movement memory, which they which Anant is holding on to. And when they are practicing sitting down, it's slowly blossoming. And we are preparing for a new for a program, which is a longer program, like half an hour program for Anant on 30th. So I think we will see a lot of improvements in that program.
And there are a lot of interesting things, I think, in their learning style. Dr. Maskatova used to mention that they somehow map movements differently. So what I found out over time is that, sometimes he's, doesn't seem like he's imitating that well, but I think he's filing it away somewhere. I think he observes a lot. And then after practice, so you have to give him enough repetitions. And then, so I just, texted Ujjwal a couple of days back. I think it's coming. I see some shift in the way he's doing the new song that he's performing on the 30th. So it's really, interesting, because they don't quite learn the same way as we do. And you sort of just have to figure out their path forward. But I think that also means that you don't have to necessarily put the bar way down. I think they just navigate it, in a different way. So that's one thing. So I think that brought, even though I've not really addressed imitation in the first 30 days, I think it eventually comes back to that. So we've just brought that up in the conversation, but it'll be there in the next 30-day cycle. I think that's where it is there. So that was one video guide. Anyway, so what I had in the video guide was 3 questions, which is, and to me, that is the key purpose of the video. So multiple people have said, that they see the connect. And I think the connect is coming because Ujjwal is not doing the command, demand, correct mode, right? So that puts the student at ease, and he knows that, he can just do it at his own pace. And I think when you watch classes, we can also learn some ideas for, for the interactions, because one of the things that struck me was, you kind of think about movement as an imitation activity. I'd never really thought of storytelling as an imitation activity till, the dance class started, and he would do this. I don't know if any of you recall the peacock story and white peacock story and some of the other earlier stories. Those were just part of the hand gesture teaching, and it was there in every class. And it was, as you imitated the hand movements, you also imitated the story. And somehow he was beginning to really pick up language. So I said, this is a, one all-in-one kind of class. You get the movement, you get the language, and a lot of different things with the same experience. So I think that's the power of theater, I think, is that you can actually address a lot of different outcomes in the same experience. And watching a TAHD facilitator can actually help parents also get ideas on interactions. So this is one reason we post a lot on Anant's Adventures. And a lot of those are, just first time, we just steal 10 minutes out of Anant's class for just doing the animal song, or it's not in his curriculum, but he actually likes them because he has a nephew and now he has 2 of them. So he's quite happy to learn the animal song and all those songs, so he can do them with his nephew. So that's just the video guide. The couple of other things, I think we have a few more minutes and then we can join back. Before we join back, nowadays Zoom won't let me sign back on for 10 minutes, about 9 minutes or so. So after we finish, let's take a little bit of a break and then join. Actually, Ujjwal, you said you can only attend the first part. So why don't I just stop here and let you share whatever thoughts you have, and then we'll start over.
Yes. Ramaji mentioned in the beginning of the meeting, saying that this is a guide for the parents, and it is for the parents to imbibe, or we are seeing opportunities and the possibilities of other dancers and other people who are in art who can pick this up as an ebook. I mean, like they can go through this ebook and they can get some ideas to work with children with special needs, or children with ND children, and then it's a guide for them, so that they can go through that in the 100 days which we have planned, and then come up with their in their own pace. They can start teaching it to the children, or having the activities with the children. And this is what we have in our mind, and we feel that it's a wonderful tool for all the dancers also, who are in the art field, and who can see that this art is not about only performance, but it's so many things that it teaches us in the process of preparation for the performance. And we want the artist to see art in this perspective. That's how Ambika Kameshwar has seen it and given us this methodology called theatre arts for holistic development. And I've been inspired by her work, and I have been inspired by dance itself, because I love preparing for a dance program more than the performance. I love the practice sessions. So I feel that there is a great connect, which I feel in the classes that we have. That I think Ramaji also has noticed, that there is a great connect in the classes that I take, better than the performances that I do. And then it gives us opportunities to explore each word in the what we teach, and explore different ways of communicating the same ideas, and it gives them an idea to think about. I Whenever we have class with Ananta, he always comes back with ideas that we should build big buildings, skyscrapers buildings, so that we don't have to cut trees. So it is his perspective that he's coming up with. It's great ideas. So I mean, like, it opens up their minds to different possibilities and different ideas, and it gives them opportunity to share those ideas with all of us. So I feel it's a great tool, and I think this ebook is the beginning to understand the magic of this tool of movement, connect, and learn.
And I also think that once they've explored, they can also take it further. So you can attend, the Balakendra that Ujjwal is running. There are also many classes from Rasa. So there are many opportunities, but I think first there is that awareness piece for people to say, why theater arts, right? I think when you hear the word theater, you're thinking drama. Oh yeah, you're on stage and you're performing something. When you hear Bharatanatyam, you again think performance. But I think it's really an approach to learning. It's an approach to learning for life. And when you have older children, I think it's also a beautiful way to catch up on missing milestones. We can do a lot of things, a lot of the co-regulation and other things through drama and music and dance. All those missing milestones you can do in a very age appropriate and very engaging kind of ways. So I think there's a lot of benefit to THD, and we're hoping that you've taken a first step to, not just passively read the book, but for people to jump in and, explore some of what we are sharing. So we'll end here. And Simi, I don't know if you had any comment. I was wondering if you had. Okay.
No.
So we'll finish here, and thanks for joining, Ujjwal. And we can all come back, and I'll leave it more for a discussion in the next half, and we can just respond to whatever questions you all have. So it's about 8:50. and we'll see you back around 9 o'clock.